It's shown that mothers who consume fluoride have babies with lower IQ, up to almost 1.5 points lower IQ. We develop this softening bone disorder as a result of overconsumption of fluoride. So yes, get it out of our water supply.
Why did fluoride end up in the water?
What a great question, right? And that's, as I was looking over this, that's what we should all be asking. Why are we fluoridating our water?
It's been a long time coming.
Yes.
Fluoride out of the water.
Yeah, and it has been a long time coming, and a lot of people have put their neck out on the line to say, hey, we should get fluoride out of the water, and they've been ostracized and treated as fringe individuals for thinking so.
For years, we've been doing the Be Well Now podcast. You're Dr. Ron Dummar. I'm the co-host. I'm Nick, a patient here at Community Health and Wellness in Heber City, Utah. Before the announcement about fluoride from Utah, which got rid of it in May of this year,
May 7th,
we did a podcast about how fluoride is a neurotoxin. And now finally, the big announcement from RFK. Tell me what's going on and what people should know.
It was so interesting because there's actually been research upon research upon research over the years that has demonstrated fluoride as a neurotoxin, okay? And also to reduce IQ. It's shown that mothers who consume fluoride have babies with lower IQ, up to almost 1.5 points lower IQ. Okay, so we know that these things have caused problems to the nervous system over time, but we haven't done anything about it. And there's been this major push from government entities, from health agencies, from dental agencies as well, to keep fluoride at the forefront of the use, not only in our teeth and topical use, but within the water supply. To use it ingesting in some way as though it's going to benefit our bodies. And the research just does not bear that out.
Fluoride isn't beneficial for our teeth because if you look at toothpaste and when you get the upsell at the dentist, they're always like, do you want to have fluoride? And the toothpaste, you have to look for it that says no fluoride. And then you feel like, am I really just being kind of a health nut? And am I really going to have bad teeth later because I'm opting out of the fluoride? Like, I still think about that. I have been a victim or a product of the marketing campaign, apparently.
Right, and there is actually a demonstrated chemical reaction that shows that, okay, it can, on some level, strengthen the enamel of your teeth. Okay, and that's where it comes from. But that's a topical use thing. It has nothing to do with ingesting it. And in fact, what we're seeing is more so a increase or a rise of fluorosis or teeth modeling within our youth. We said like 32% of children now have teeth modeling, which is like these brown spots on the teeth that come as a result of too much fluoride. Too much ingestion of fluoride and topical. So yeah, you could say there is some, and even the Dental Association now is admitting, okay, it's largely a topical benefit and doesn't have anything to do with ingesting. But when you do ingest it, it's not only affecting your teeth, it's affecting also your bones. So if it's going to do that to your teeth, where it does actually start to wear down and soften, it literally softens your teeth. It will do the same thing to your bones. So we develop this softening bone disorder as a result of overconsumption of fluoride. So yes, get it out of our water supply. Fantastic. Thank you, RFK Jr., for once again standing up as a true man in the face of adversity and getting something done that is needed to be done for decades.
Right, the idea of topical versus why is it in the water supply in the first place. Dr. Robert Carton, a former EPA scientist, called fluoride in the water, quote, the greatest case of scientific fraud of this century. Why did fluoride end up in the water?
What a great question, right? And that's, as I was looking over this, that's what we should all be asking. Why are we fluoridating our water? Why are we putting fluoride? And you know what? The European countries have, it's like 98% of them choose to not fluoridate their water. And they've been doing that for decades. They have had anti-fluoridation campaigns, no fluoride in their water. And what did we see? Like Canada, I think it was in 2011, 2012, they decided to stop fluoridating their water. And what we saw was a rise or an increase, a decrease, an increase of oral health, but a decrease in cavities, okay? So we saw that over the same period of time. So in the United States, we actually had a decrease in cavities as well. But it made no difference as to whether they were consuming fluoride or not, right? So both countries seemed to have a decrease in cavities, which was super interesting. So we look at that and we say, okay, well, it has nothing to do really with whether or not we're fluoridating the water. And all these European countries have acknowledged that, yeah, fluoride is a toxin, so let's get it out of our water. Why not follow suit and say, or even at least like the question you just posed is, let's go back and see why we even started fluoridating our water in the first place. And that comes down to our metal production, our steel production, and mostly like aluminum. So we have different phosphate production of aluminum. In order to produce aluminum, a lot of these companies were ending up with this byproduct, which essentially was fluoride. So they had this mass waste of fluoride. They were trying to dump it into streams, to waterways, and the cows and cattle were coming up sick, and there were complaints about it. So then they had to stop dumping it into waterways. They had to stop dumping it into local areas. And so all of a sudden they have this massive amount of waste product. They're trying to figure out what to do with it. And at some point, a scientist says, oh, you know what we can do? We can actually use this. He discovered a certain reaction that he felt like it would strengthen the enamel of the teeth and save the, dentists work so that they could introduce fluoride to all of their patients. So at some point, it was like early, 1930s, 1940s, they started introducing it literally as a way of strengthening your enamel and decreasing cavities. So cavity prevention. And they hit it hard with advertising. And eventually at some point, the governments of each of our states were petitioned to, and they said, hey, you've got to get this, you've got to take this fluoride and you put it in your water, and if you put it in the water, it's going to help everybody so that they don't have these dental caries. And if you're thinking about that as a governor or as a mayor, you might think like, okay, great. It sounds
a nice,
like
easy plug and play solution.
Yeah, sure, great. Yeah, these are the wise. Trust the scientists. We should trust the experts. These are the experts, right? I mean, they're telling us we should put this stuff in our water, and they have this scientific research apparently that they've demonstrated and shown to us that shows it's beneficial for people. So yeah, let's put it in our water. So in 1945, it was where was it? In Michigan. It was Grand Rapids, Michigan. Was the first place that actually began to introduce fluoride into their water. And it was based really on a prematurely terminated 10-year study. The U.S. Public Health Service declared fluoridation as safe. After it was like 5 years of study, it was supposed to go on for 10. After 5 years, they're like, okay, it's safe, it's fine. And despite no long-term toxicity data or internal documents, their documents reveal that the study's lead researcher, his name is Harold Hodge, he later was implicated in the Manhattan Project radiation experiments. Okay, so maybe a sketchy scientist or researcher anyway, pushing the envelope perhaps, but he suppressed evidence of skeletal fluorosis, which is what we were talking about, like the bone softening disorders, and also the neurological risks when he introduced fluoride as a solution for dental caries.
It's wild. I was looking through old magazines the other day. It was kind of a fun little reason we were doing this. We were like making vision boards in this book club I'm in. And someone went to this old used bookstore and got all these vintage magazines from the 60s. And I opened one of them, and it was this kid and a dog laying on the grass, just this beautiful bucolic view, and it was Monsanto. Chemicals aren't that bad. Yes. Chemicals aren't the enemy.
Yes.
It's like, and it talked about how chemicals are natural, and it was like, whoa.
Yep.
I mean, even when we went through COVID, it's like, if you just generally mistrust big government, you kind of ended up on the right side of that debate. We can talk about that a little bit, but it's like, I think people who look back, they're probably like, I'm probably glad I didn't get the jab. Like, all things being equal, like I'm probably glad I didn't trust big companies and big government with my health.
Yeah.
That's like not a bad place to be as a human.
Yeah, I'll tell you personally as an individual, and all my patients can know this about me, I'm absolutely an individual who believes when you're asked the question, am I my brother's keeper? my answer to that is 100% affirmative. I am my brother's keeper, which means I need to look out for my neighbor, right? We need to look out for each other. And when we look at that from a community standpoint or from a government standpoint, are we our brother's keeper? Are we willing to do things to support our neighbors? Are we willing to do yes? And I think that is also part of the American spirit. We are willing and generous and wanting to help everyone around us. And if you think about how we started out at these these large farms, you could say, right? But just people in suffering and working, whether in a city or in a vast open area. But our neighbor was so important. It was so important for us to take care of each other and to look out for each other. And that's still so important today. We need to remember it's about our community. And that's one of the reasons I've called our business Community Health and Wellness. It's because it is about our community. That's how we stay well. That's how we stay healthy, is we engage in our community and we make sure that our community, in our government, in all of our actions, that we're engaging in a very way that is health promoting, right? So all the actions that we take should be to benefit our neighbor, to benefit each other, and not to enrich and benefit ourselves personally. And too often what happens when we get into we see these government agencies and even these individuals that make it into government, and they end up making these choices and decisions that are really meant to favor a very specific group. Okay. And that's not what we're looking to do as government. So the point being, we can't always trust government to have our best interest in mind. We just can't. And especially if they're forcing us to do something or suggesting that we have to engage in something. Well, any time a government entity suggests, hey, you have to do this, we should be questioning it and look into it ourselves and make sure that that's the appropriate step for us to take individually.
It's just a bummer because even when you think about the water supply, talking about fluoride today, right?
Yeah.
It comes out of the water tap. You assume it's safe.
And you're told it's safe.
Do you have your kids drinking tap water?
We filter our water.
Exactly.
So 100%, and that's one of our recommendations, is that you should be filtering your water. Even now, like Utah in May, it was May 7th, 2025, they passed a bill that said, hey, no more fluoride in the water supply. Okay, so Utah was one of the first. So congratulations, Utah. I'm glad to be living here in Utah with some sane people who want to look at the actual real data and research and make great decisions for their community. Okay, so fantastic. But we still need to be thinking there's several other toxicants that could potentially find their way into your water supply, including medications. Other medications and endocrine disrupting plastics and parabens and phthalates and makeup, debris, all sorts of stuff, right, can make its way into your water supply. So it's best to actually have a filter, either like a pitcher filter that you can keep in the fridge, and under the sink water filter for your kitchen, so okay, this sink or this faucet is the one that is filtered, or to have a whole house filtration system.
That makes a lot of sense to me. So, and it does scare me. I mean, thinking of all the pharmaceuticals, and I've worked with you at Community Health and Wellness to get off a series of pharmaceuticals. I was on antidepressants for a while, and that was like a very difficult thing to what's the exit strategy? How do I get off of these? And looking back, I'm so glad I was able to extricate myself from that. I don't know that there's a plug and play solution for everybody. I think it's different for everyone, but I think as a human, we all want to feel as independent and as free as we can. Yeah. And imagine you're dropped in the forest somewhere. Could you survive for 3 days without your pharmaceutical meds? Or it's a nice feeling to be like, if I travel one day, or if if I forget to take the thing in the orange pill, is it going to mess up my whole brain chemistry for a day, or am I okay? So I think there's that element of if it works for people and it helps them and they're going through tough times, I get it, SSRIs, but it's just nice to feel that sort of autonomy. Just I'm an autonomous soul as much as I can be. I depend on the community and I depend on the world and the way it works. But anyway, just to get free of that was a nice feeling. And just to think that, again, it's in the water supply, all these pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of a bummer because I worked hard to try to get away from that. So we could talk about water filtration. We've talked about it in another podcast. I think the message probably is just try to filter your water somehow.
Filter your water. Yeah.
Yeah.
Filter your water. I mean, refrigerators oftentimes have a filter. I don't think that those filters are the most ideal when you're trying to get rid of, arsenic and a variety of different things that can oftentimes just be general byproducts found in your water supply, especially if you live in an area that does spray fields, or if they have, like you mentioned, Monsanto, some of the chemicals that they make to spray on weeds. Right? It's like if you're putting that into the ground, then it's going to get into the groundwater, and that groundwater will end up either in someone's well, or it'll end up in the water supply for your town. And so that that chemical is something that you want to make sure you're not consuming on a very regular basis. Otherwise, it ends up disrupting your endocrine system, which is your hormones, or your nerves, right? As neurotoxicity, which is causing inflammation. It can lead to difficulty with focus, memory. It can lead to headaches, right? Migraines. All sorts of these things can be from exposure to this chemical spill off of things that you might otherwise consider to be harmless or safe.
We talked about Grand Rapids, Michigan. So by 1951, fluoridization has spread to 87 cities. It's not public demand, but heavy lobbying by the ADA, the American Dental Association, industries like DuPont. It's wild how this happens, and then it just becomes the norm.
Well, yeah. So a lot of these companies, like DuPont, you mentioned.
And I think we're bringing this up because it's like, this is how we got here.
Right. It's important to understand a little bit.
It wasn't just here because it all made sense. Like,
yes,
there was a lot of money and lobbying involved. That's
right.
how a lot of the world works.
So all of these companies that were producing aluminum, that had this byproduct of fluoride, right? Whatever their process of production was, they essentially had a liability of a toxic substance that they had to figure out how to store or eliminate or figure out what to do with, because they weren't now allowed to dump it into waterways. They were prevented from, storing it in the ground. They were prevented from doing all these other things. So they had to figure out, what do we do with this? And so that's why these companies spent millions, if not billions of dollars, literally advocating for fluoride utilization within communities. Is because it was a great way for them to get rid of waste product, so that they didn't have to spend money on it. Imagine this, okay? It's like the greatest business acumen ever. If you can take your waste product and turn it into a profitable product. So then at first it's a waste product. They're trying to figure out if they can get it into to a city. Who's going to be the first one to start? Let's see. And they're sending all these sales and reps and people around. Eventually it becomes something cities pay for. So then they have to purchase the product, right? So now their byproduct is an additional revenue generator. Okay, so that is, talk about business acumen. If you can turn your waste into another product, oh man, that is amazing. And that's exactly what happened with these corporations, is they figured out a way to flip the negative and to make it a positive for their corporation, for their bottom line. But it's also been a contributor, I would say, to neurological degeneration for a whole generation of us, of Americans.
Drinking water out the hose on a hot summer day.
Yeah, I did plenty of that myself.
Plastic taste. Hey, so the ADA insists fluoridation reduces cavities by 25%, right? And again, I think parents out there who are just trying to do the best for their kids, and they're not health warriors, they're just trying to do the best they can, but there's like a lot of rabbit holes to go down.
Yeah.
They get the toothpaste and it says fluoride on it, reduces cavities. That all sounds good, right? What do you make of this claim by the ADA telling a mom out there what she should do for her kid? ADA says fluoridization reduces cavities by 20%.
Well, there's a lot of independent research actually that contradicts the ADA's safety claims. Fluoride itself, we know, is a neurotoxin that crosses the blood-brain barrier. Okay, so it accumulates in brain tissue and it's linked to cognitive issues and memory issues. And, there's been a lot of talk about autism and neurodegenerative issues and inflammatory neuro issues as well. It's like, is this the main cause? I don't know. Is it a contributing factor? Absolutely. Right. And so we look at some of these like real pressing issues that people deal with neurologically. And we can point at a lot of individual things and say, well, it's definitely not caused by that. It's definitely not this, and it's definitely not that. And well, yeah, there's correlation, but it's not causation. And we say all these things, right? But when it really comes down to it, we have to look at the whole of what people are consuming and what they're exposed to. And each little thing that they're exposed to is an exposure. And if it's compounding with something else, then it's going to make it more aggressive, right? Because if you have a an additive or an adjuvant like aluminum or something that you're exposed to from a vaccine, and then you have on top of that fluoride, and then you have another neurological chemical thing that you're exposed to, all of a sudden these add up and they compound. So maybe not just one on its own, separate from the others, but as they start to compound. And I'm just spitballing here on some level because we don't really know still what is leading to a lot of these neurological issues. But what we do know is that there are very specific things, right, that are neurotoxic. And one of those specifically that we know is fluoride. So if you're going to utilize fluoride at all, it should only be topically to the teeth, and you should avoid at all costs swallowing. And a warning and maybe a caveat is that your oral cavity is designed to take things up as well. Just like your GI, your mouth is actually the beginning of your gastrointestinal tract. So it will absorb things too, like your sublingual. You can see your vessels there. You have exposed vessels.
What does sublingual mean?
Underneath your tongue.
Okay.
So you have vessels underneath your tongue. You can actually absorb things into your body and into your bloodstream directly from your mouth before it even gets into your body. So now if you're putting fluoride all over in your mouth, okay, that's fine. You can say, okay, that's just topical treatment. All right, fine. But if it's in your mouth, it's going systemic. It's getting into your bloodstream. It's going to your bones. It's going to your brain. Okay. So I would say avoid it even in your mouth. Avoid putting it in your mouth. Avoid drinking it for sure. But really, you have to use your best judgment. And I would say, once again, like I always do, is consult with a good care provider that you trust, and consult with a dentist, a wise dentist that you trust. There are plenty of dentists out there who have read and are up on the research and are very cautious in their implementation or utilization or the lack thereof of fluoride.
If they want to learn more, or they want to reach out to your office and be like, I'd love to, get a consultation with this guy, even if I'm out of state, or they're local in the Heber, Midway, Park City, Camas, Wasatch back area. Yeah. How do they reach out to Community Health and Wellness?
Yeah. If you come across this at all and you want to reach out to us, whether you're here locally or across the world, you can actually text us into our number. That's probably the easiest, quickest way to get to us because we cycle through those. My staff is very efficient. I have a great staff, and they make sure that we get through each of these and that I respond in a very efficient time back. So our phone number, 435-657-3696. We'll get back to you if you reach out and let us know what your questions, concerns, or thoughts are, or if you're looking for a consult, happy to consult with you. You can also find us at CHW Heber, Heber, is what that is, chwheber.com.
Be well now, everybody.
Be well now. Namaste.
Namaste.